responsible for planning a special event or occasion? Typically, you need to create a guest list, hire a caterer, select the appropriate menu items, book the evening's entertainment, secure the venue, arrange for parking and transportation, and so on. As you were planning for this occasion, did you simply wing it and just handle these details as they crossed your mind? Or did you sit down and list out the specific items, then create a detailed list that outlined each item to be completed, and finally assign a deadline date for completing each one? Most people choose the second option, and their events often go off without a hitch. So why would your marketing program be any different? And yet, the vast majority of business owners choose option one for their marketing and advertising campaigns. They basically wing it. They look at what their competition is doing, assume it must be the best way to market their business, and then blindly attempt to duplicate it. This is literally the blind leading the blind. And the end result is a failed marketing effort, which leads to a reluctance to attempt other future marketing initiatives. In this presentation, we're going to teach you a powerful technique known as a marketing schedule. The single biggest mistake business owners make is they're afraid to take action. They simply won't pull the trigger when it comes to their marketing. This leads to procrastination and often spells disaster today for small business owners. This is where your marketing schedule comes in. It takes your previously completed process map and schedule and drops them into an Excel spreadsheet or Word document and forces you to assign specific due dates to each and every tactic you need to complete in order to properly and effectively execute your marketing plan of action. In essence, your marketing schedule is the written outline you'll follow when it comes to the execution of your marketing plan. It identifies the marketing campaigns you plan to run, each marketing piece that needs to be developed, the dates each marketing piece will be developed, and the milestones required for its successful implementation. The marketing schedule also tracks the follow-up marketing components you want to use for those clients that don't initially buy what you sell. Once completed, you can combine the power of your revenue plan, your sales process, and your marketing schedule and create an industry-dominating marketing program. You will have the unprecedented ability to attract more clients, attract them with greater frequency at a lower cost, and with total and complete confidence and certainty. Previously, we provided you with the basics as to how to develop a process map and schedule. So as a quick review, when you want to generate leads for your business, you select specific strategies that will reach your target customers. And then you select the tactics that work in a step-by-step format to not only generate those leads for your business, but when done properly, also qualify those leads to make sure you're spending your valuable time in front of your target customers. The end result for both tactics and strategies is to deliver that prospect to a chosen distribution channel where the actual sale takes place. By clearly and specifically defining where the sale will actually occur, you can begin to map out the strategies and tactics that will be required to get your prospects to that distribution channel. The strategies you choose to use are responsible for delivering your message to your prospects. They exist to compel them to show up at the distribution channel you identified as the most likely place where they will buy your product or service. The tactics are the building blocks you use to make the strategies work. And although there are 77 of them, this process saves you the time and effort of selecting them individually. Instead, they will magically appear throughout the process mapping procedure. Process mapping is a simple tool that first confirms you have chosen the most effective strategy for your business, but second, forces you to think through the logical progression of tactics that will result in the successful execution of each strategy. Process mapping is your sales process represented in a visual format. It breaks down the sales process into a step-by-step format so that you can see your communication points of contact with your clients. By knowing these specific points of contact, you can then analyze the effectiveness your marketing messages will have as they work to convince your target customer that they would be a fool to buy what you sell from anyone else but you. It will also provide tremendous guidance as you create your marketing message by revealing the possible state of mind of your prospects. Specifically, how receptive will they be when they receive your marketing message? Your marketing schedule is a step-by-step roadmap for the planning and execution of your sales process. It's the first step toward helping you begin to create what we hope will be a competition-crushing marketing program that will allow you to separate your business from the competition and make your business the obvious choice for your prospects to buy from. Your marketing schedule outlines the frequency all your marketing activities will follow and the specific dates you want them executed on during the entire implementation phase of your marketing program. A simple and easy way to track all of these activities is through the use of an event calendar. An event calendar is a tracking document. This can be a simple Excel spreadsheet that lists the preferred strategy at the top of the left column, the corresponding tactics below it, and the various dates or date you've chosen to implement the tactic. Let's use the child care facility as an example and create a marketing schedule that outlines the sales process we have previously described. An Excel spreadsheet is an excellent way to create and track simple marketing schedules. If you're not Excel savvy, a Word document is just as good. Let's assume it's the middle of December and I want to begin my direct mail strategy on January 20th. That's the date I want my very first mailing to leave my mail house. To get started, you simply go back to your process schedule, look at your tactics, and then begin to transfer each of the tactics into the left-hand column of your spreadsheet. I don't worry about assigning dates at this point. I simply want to make sure I record all the necessary tactical steps in the right order so I can begin to plan the assignment of dates that will ensure I get everything created and developed on time and on schedule. Here's the order of progression I like to use so I don't accidentally miss a step or two. I start at the beginning of my process schedule with step 1. In this case, it says to purchase the list of prospect names. On my spreadsheet, I write down that I need to identify a source to purchase a mailing list with address, phone number, and contact name. I also know that when I go to purchase that list, the list broker will want to know whether the list is a one-time purchase or for unlimited use. So I write that in the second row. Okay, so far so good. Now I look at my second step on my process schedule, and it says to mail out my first point of contact, which I have decided in this case will be a postcard. So on line number 3 of my spreadsheet, I write down to develop my initial postcard promoting my new WebWatch program. And I need to do this with my graphic designer. However, that doesn't help me create the actual written copy that goes on to the postcard. The graphic designer just makes the postcard look great. I still need to add the strategic component to the postcard, which is the message. So on the 4th line, I write down to develop the initial postcard with the help of a copywriter. I write this down separately since the discussion I'll have with the graphic designer will be totally different than the one I'll have with the copywriter. Now, most business owners get off track at this point. If you look at the process schedule, it appears the next step is to have my copywriter create my second contact point, which is scheduled to be a letter. This isn't necessary yet at this point. In fact, this highlights one of the major advantages to creating a marketing schedule. Remember that I mentioned that I want the postcard to actually leave the mail house on January 20th. I want to list everything I need to have created, developed, and delivered by the first mailing. Obviously, I need the list of names and addresses as well as the postcard. In fact, after checking with the mail house, they informed me that they need to have physical possession of those postcards by the 18th so they can prepare them for the 20th mailing. So I asked myself, what specifically must I have ready to go when the postcard gets delivered, which could be delivered to homes as early as January 21st. On our process schedule, most business owners continue to work across their schedule horizontally, and that's what gets them into trouble. That isn't the marketing collateral they should be focusing on at this point. For example, the letter won't be sent out for an additional 5 days after the postcard goes out, and that's the same time frame as the phone call I need to place to prospects who request the report. So I don't really need to have those created immediately. However, there is one major component that is needed immediately to complement the postcard mailing, and that's the report. It needs to either be mailed within 24 to 48 hours of the request, or better yet, downloaded from a website landing page where I won't incur any additional cost. So instead of continuing across the schedule horizontally, You want to go vertically and then work the horizontal and vertical collateral materials together based on the time frames assigned to each set of tactics. Here's why. Go back to one of the major advantages of process mapping. It allows you to play the if this then what game. So play that game at the very beginning of the execution of your strategy. If I mail this postcard on the 20th, then what could happen? Well, no one could respond, in which case I would then mail my second contact letter 5 days later. But is there any possibility that something may happen before that date? Absolutely. In fact, I'm counting on it. I'm counting on a certain percentage of my target customer requesting that report. And if they do, that sets into motion a series of events that run parallel to my tactics running across the top of my schedule. Since the report can be downloaded as a PDF from the landing page I plan to create, all of that needs to be in place when the postcard is initially mailed. That establishes what you might refer to as your drop-dead date, the date when you have to have all of that material created, allowing you to work backward to ensure you have everything in place by that date. You want to always work backward from each individual tactic to ensure its successful completion. So in the case of the child care, the first tactic that is a deliverable is the postcard mailing. The mail house that sends it out is where you start to work backward. They must have that postcard by the 18th to make the mailing date of the 20th work. That's the drop dead date. So between now and then, everything else has to be set into motion and specific dates assigned in order to meet each deadline. That's what I'm recording on my marketing schedule, are all of those steps. Once I'm confident I have everything listed properly, then I can begin to assign dates. Since I now know that the report needs to be ready to go at the same time as the postcard, I can write that into my marketing schedule. I list the word copywriter with that entry to remind me who will have the responsibility for the development of each tactic. I also need to have physical copies of the report printed off for those prospects who prefer to receive the hard copy version. I write that into my schedule as well and assign that responsibility to a printer. I also now know that landing page needs to be ready for those who want instant access. Not to mention the money the e-version of the report can save me an additional mailing cost. So I write that on my schedule and label it as the responsibility of a web designer. However, I need compelling copy for that page, and most web designers are not copywriters. So I list that requirement on the schedule as well. Are you beginning to see the tremendous advantages of marketing schedule provides to you and your business? It makes you physically map out every requirement you need to successfully deploy your marketing program. But here's another advantage to this process. Let's face it, you don't know what you don't know. You may know you want to offer a free report, and you may think that mailing it is your only option. You may not know anything about web-based offers, PDFs, landing pages, and so on. That's okay. When you begin to speak with a graphic designer or copywriter, they will be asking you those exact types of questions as part of their initial assessment for what you will need from them. So a marketing schedule fleshes out most of these things you might normally miss, overlook, or simply not even know about. Now that I have listed everything I should need to carry out my first mailing and fulfill the request for my free report offer, I now turn my attention back to my process schedule. 5 days after my first mailing, I need to send out a letter to everyone who does not respond to the postcard by requesting the free report. So that would be January 25th. When I check with the mail house, they inform me the letters need to be in their physical possession by the 22nd. That becomes my drop dead date for that tactic. I list that next on my marketing schedule and assign responsibility to the copywriter. However, notice at the bottom of my process schedule that I also have scheduled that same date to conduct my follow-up calls to everyone who did request the report but hasn't yet asked for the face-to-face meeting, which is the offer in the report. That means I need the copywriter to write a compelling script for me to use when I make that call, and I need to receive that script no later than the 24th. I then write that into my marketing schedule. Now it's back to the if this then what game. The offer in the letter is for that same free report, and I have everything in place to fully support that request, both physically and online. I have the PDF for instant online access to the report, and I have my physical version of it as well. I also have the phone script for the follow-up call if they do request the report. However, if I execute my follow-up call from the postcard mailing and offer them the face-to-face meeting, which is essentially an open house invitation to my child care, then within 5 days, I need a compelling conversion script from the copywriter. So I write that into my schedule. Back to the top of my process schedule, I notice that 5 days after I send out the letter, I plan to attempt a direct phone call to all prospects on my list who still haven't requested the report. This is a completely different script than the phone call that follows the report request. So I need to add that to my marketing schedule and assign responsibility to the copywriter to develop that as well. Can you see how this is progressing? Once I developed my sales process roadmap called a process map, I quickly placed those steps into a generalized process schedule that assigns time frames for each tactic, but does not assign specific dates. It merely forms a framework to begin planning for the actual execution of my marketing plan. All I'm doing now is thinking through the execution part of my marketing program more thoroughly and recording the specific requirements to successfully execute each tactic in my process schedule and mapping them out in a marketing schedule so I can assign specific dates for the completion of each step. This should prevent anything from falling through the cracks. Looking over the remainder of my process schedule, I write into my marketing schedule to have the copywriter develop the thank you note. The copywriter and the graphic designer create a brochure, have them both develop the second postcard, and have the copywriter create my entire drip campaign. Wow, this is a lot of stuff, isn't it? When we first discussed this strategy, did you ever imagine anything like this? So consider your competition right now, and you will begin to see the competitive advantage that gives you over your competition. You see, your competition doesn't know anything about all of this either. They just say to themselves, I need some more clients, so I think I'll send out a postcard. They don't go through all of this. Most of them know nothing about these types of tools. They take what they think is the easy route and the least expensive route. They stick their phone number on the postcard and tell interested prospects to call them, and then they wonder why their phone never rings. Yes, there is a lot of work to do in order to execute this strategy properly. But guess what? Your phone will ring, and will ring a lot. But you have to take the right steps in the right order, and that means you have to map out all of these moving parts into a marketing schedule. You have to know the dates of completion for each tactic if you want to make your launch date. The copywriter has a lot to get done, and they won't get it done overnight. This may require a month of prep time for them alone. If they have to perform all the research for the report in addition to writing it. Now, they don't have to have everything done by the first launch date, but they will need the first postcard completed along with the free report by the first launch date. Then within a week, they would need to complete the second contact piece, which is the direct mail letter, along with the phone script. Do you see what I mean? If you don't have a way to schedule and track all of this, chances are better than excellent you will launch your campaign and later discover you're missing 2 or 3 vital components. Those missing components may be all that's needed to convince your wary parents that if you can't organize a marketing campaign, how can I trust the care of my child to you? Oh, and that was just the copywriter. How much lead time does the graphic designer require? Do you really think your project is the only one they have to work on? They may not be able to start on your collateral for 2 weeks and then require a month to produce it all. Same thing with the website developer. And don't forget the printer. And what if you don't know any of these service providers? Now you have to locate them, interview them to make sure they have the required level of expertise you need to create a professional campaign, verify their delivery schedules, and so on. I hope I've made a solid case here as to why a marketing schedule is absolutely critical to develop an industry-dominating marketing program. And since you now see the importance of assigning specific completion dates, you can easily accomplish this by adding one simple component to your marketing schedule, and that's an event calendar. This is exactly what it sounds like. On my spreadsheet, it lists all my tactics in the left column. In the next column, I list who is responsible for that tactic. And then to the right of my areas of responsibility, I have an actual calendar with the dates running horizontally across the spreadsheet. With Excel, I can create mini boxes to represent each individual day, and I simply place an X in the box representing a due date for each tactic I have listed. I also place the letter D in my drop dead deadline date boxes, marking the last acceptable day for the development of every specific requirement. If I trust my service and product providers, I might actually assign those dates on the actual final day. If I don't know my providers, I may move those dates so they appear several days earlier, just to give me some additional breathing room in the case someone comes up short. I also recommend you have a backup provider for every product or service you will need to execute your marketing plan. After all, this is the success of your business we're talking about here. As an added bonus, when creating a marketing schedule, once I know each individual date, I can add those dates into my Outlook calendar, and it automatically reminds me each day of the tactic that is scheduled for completion, so I can ensure that takes place and gets to the next step in the process if that's a requirement. An example would be my direct mail tactic. If I plan to send out my direct mail postcards on the 20th, that doesn't mean I need everything done by the 19th. I'm mailing to 600 prospects. I need to have a mail house mail all of that collateral for me. In order for them to mail on the 20th, they will require everything to be in their possession by the 18th. So in reality, the 18th becomes your deadline date. Notice that's what I've listed in my marketing schedule. But now you can work backward from that date to ensure you have sufficient time to execute all the necessary tactics and make this strategy produce clients for your business. This simple tool provides another visual representation of your lead generation strategy and is a quick reference guide for specifically tracking when and how you plan to generate a massive number of highly qualified leads. You may choose to run one strategy and tactic at a time, or a combination of two or more. The event calendar will act as a roadmap, so you know when, where, what, and how you will send out your lead generation messages. The event calendar lists the dates that each strategy and tactic will occur. As a lead is received, schedule when you or your staff will either mail or email the information that your prospects have requested. For direct mail, this should occur within 2 days of receiving the request, so that your prospect receives it within 5 to 6 days of mailing the request. For email request, it should be sent immediately. Next, schedule the intervals in days or weeks when you or your staff will mail or email the informational report. Make the phone call, schedule the face-to-face meeting, mail the thank you note, and mail or email the different follow-up pieces that will make up your drip campaign. Your prospect's decision-making process should give you a good idea what this interval should be. Remember that this process will be different from every type of business or industry. Think about your target child care prospects. When someone is interested in changing child care facilities, how quickly do they tend to take action after receiving compelling information? This indicates a relatively short window of opportunity to capture interested prospects, so following up with child care prospects every 5 days would be appropriate. In other industries, that interval may be every 3 to 5 weeks. It all depends on your prospect's decision-making process. Never forget that prior to sending out additional information, you need to develop an elevator pitch and subsequent scripts that are compelling enough to get the prospect to set an appointment to meet with you face-to-face. I would never leave this up to your copywriter. They may be great at writing copy, but you know your target customer, and more important, you know their hot buttons. That's the information you need to provide to the copywriter. Also, keep in mind that the graphic design work you need done should always support and reinforce the written copy. So you need to plan that into your marketing schedule. The graphic designer can't start their part of the project until the copywriter completes their part. As a child care facility owner, a face-to-face meeting should always be your ultimate goal. That's where you get the opportunity to perform a needs analysis for your prospects and show them how your child care's benefits can solve their problems or overcome their concerns and frustrations. However, in the event they don't set an appointment, you want them to request information. Then, based on your analysis of their decision-making process, you can schedule your drip campaign to send out follow-up marketing pieces, perhaps every 3 days for 1 month, depending on your business. Each one will educate your prospects as to why you offer the best option when it comes to childcare, why no other childcare can compare with what you're offering, and why your prospects should feel like absolute fools if they don't schedule an appointment with you. The request for the free report provides an opportunity to capture their email contact information. If they happen to call the child care facility to request the free report, your staff should inform them they will be happy to send them the report by direct mail within a few days. However, if they would like to receive it sooner, your staff would be happy to email it to them immediately. Most people prefer to receive things they're interested in right away, and over 70% of prospects who call will provide you with their email address. Once they do, all your follow-up drip campaign materials can now be sent by email rather than direct mail, dramatically reducing your expenses. You may elect to mix and match the follow-up pieces to add variety to your marketing messages. For example, if your prospects request that information be sent by direct mail, you could mail the information on day 1. 3 days later, you can mail a compelling letter. 3 days after that, you could send a 6x11 postcard. The next piece can be an informational brochure. The remaining contact pieces could alternate between letters and postcards. For email request, you could send the report as a PDF file on day 1. 3 days later, you could email an audio postcard. 3 days after that, you could send a video postcard. To add variety, you could continue to alternate between standard emails, audio, and video postcards. All of these can be developed and archived in advance of starting your marketing campaign. You can now see the advantages of developing and writing out both your marketing plan and your marketing schedule, and then developing all of your marketing pieces prior to implementing your plan. Remember to be patient, as most prospects won't make quick decisions. They often need to be contacted multiple times before you establish enough trust to get them to respond to your offer and make a commitment. When you consider the fact that today's prospects are completely inundated with constant and poorly articulated marketing messages, the savvy business owner that follows up consistently and continues to educate prospects on the issues that are relevant and important to them will have little trouble attracting more clients. Following a specific marketing plan and schedule will allow you to capture the prospective target customers you need to become a highly successful business owner. Once you decide which marketing strategies and tactics are best for your business, the next step is to investigate the costs associated with implementing those strategies and tactics. In the child care example, the creation, writing, printing, and mailing of the direct mail pieces along with the acquisition of the mailing list are the main costs that will determine whether this marketing strategy is cost effective. I start out by identifying the lead generation tactics I plan to use. These are designed with one express purpose: to get my prospects to request the free report. Notice that each and every one of them leads to the report, at which time the lead qualification and conversion collateral kicks in. Then I identify the lead qualification and conversion tactics designed to deliver my prospects to my chosen distribution channel, which is the face-to-face meeting. So I begin by creating that list and writing down all these tactics. This provides a quick snapshot for me to refer to as I investigate the costs associated with each one I've listed. So from that list, I now know what costs to investigate in order to effectively implement my marketing plan. Those costs will include the acquisition of my mailing list, the graphic designer and copywriter, who together will create, design, and produce the postcards, letter, brochure, scripts, report, drip campaign, as well as all printing and mailing costs. Once I know these costs, I should be able to determine my return on investment. For purposes of this example, let's assign specific costs to each item required in the direct mail strategy. The cost of acquiring the list of prospective child care families that meet your demographic profile is $300 for 600 highly targeted names and addresses, all within a 5-mile radius of your child care facility. Your prospects will be making an emotional decision, and once your message finally begins to reach them, they will act quickly if they're interested in changing child care providers. Once they receive the initial postcard, sending out follow-up mailings at a frequency of every 3 days seems appropriate in this example. So you decide to create 11 postcards to get started. 1 for the initial offer, followed by 10 in your drip campaign. Using an oversized postcard to attract additional attention turns out to be inexpensive to produce. It only costs 50 cents each to print and mail. Also, assume that it costs $900 to have all of your graphic design work completed. Your copywriter is charging you $2,100 and your web developer charges $1,600. Now you can begin to calculate your return on investment. To make sure this strategy makes sense, here's how you calculate your ROI. First, figure out what your marketing cost will be for the initial mailing. You have a one-time cost of $300 for the mailing list, plus the cost to produce and mail your postcards. The postcards cost 50 cents each to produce and mail, and you have to multiply that by the 600 names on your mailing list. That's an additional $300. The one-time graphic design cost is $900, a one-time copywriting cost of $2,100, and a one-time web developer cost of $1,600. So your initial mailing for just your postcard only comes to $5,200. But you also plan to execute a 10 postcard drip campaign. Now multiply the $300 it costs to mail 600 postcards by your 10 separate mailings you'll send out every 3 days as follow-ups. 10 mailings times $300 equals an additional $3,000. So your total cost for the direct mail strategy is $8,200, which is the $3,000 plus the initial mailing cost of $5,200. Next, determine your client acquisition cost. The entire marketing program will cost $8,200 to create, design, produce, and mail. Most direct mail programs have a 1% conversion rate, meaning that only 1% of all the postcards you mail will produce a new client. So mailing to 600 homes should produce 6 new clients. This means your client acquisition cost should average $1,367 per client, which is $8,200 divided by 6 new clients. Remember your lifetime value equations? This is the perfect time to revisit them. Verify their accuracy, update them if necessary, and apply them to your child care. Suppose the fees for your child care services are $10,000 annually per child, and your target customer stays with you on average of 4 years. Let's also assume your child care spends $5,200 per year on staff salaries, meals, and supplies for each child. These figures take into consideration the additional staff the child care facility will need to handle the additional clients. This is your cost of goods. You can now determine your target customer lifetime revenue. Take your $10,000 per year fee times the 4 years the client stays with you, and your lifetime revenue is $40,000. Next, take your $40,000 lifetime revenue and subtract $20,800, which is the cost of goods we said equaled $5,200 per year, times the 4 years they stay with you. And that gives you a client lifetime profit of $19,200. Now subtract your client acquisition cost of $1,367, and you get a lifetime value of $17,833. Now remember, that's per client. This program generated 6 new clients, so your total profit comes to $106,998 over 4 years. Now put it all together. Your total return on investment for just this one marketing program is $106,998 over 4 years. That's a 1,300% ROI. Not too bad for an investment of $8,200. But wait, here's the really exciting part. This is your initial marketing program. It included all of your one-time development costs, which you won't incur in future mailings. That's a savings of $4,900 of your initial total of $8,200. Assuming you continue to average 1% conversion rate, you should see your profits go from $106,998 per campaign to $111,900. That's close to a 3,400% ROI. That's the power of the marketing schedule. It keeps you on track and on target. Taking the time to complete your revenue plan, your sales process, and your marketing plan and schedule will without question become one of the most leverageable and highest income producing activities you may ever do. It will give you unprecedented control over the outcome of your financial goals and objectives. By investing the time to learn this information, you're moving yourself and your business light years ahead of your competition. As you can see, our overall focus is to help you continue to build the business you've always dreamed of having. A business that provides you with financial freedom and an extraordinary life for you and your family. Remember that a primary goal in the e-learning marketing system is to help you quickly develop the processes that will bring more revenue into your business. Each presentation brings us closer to accomplishing that goal. So until next time,